Hello, everybody, and welcome to Phoenix Vision. My name is Charlie Martin, and today I'm taking over the podcast. I'm going to be interviewing the one, the only Jess Farmer. Welcome to your own podcast, Jess.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, it feels weird to be welcome to the podcast after being in the other seat for so long. So, yeah, I'm excited, and thank you for interviewing.
Yeah, amazing. I'm really happy to be interviewing you and learning a bit more about your own journey. And I know that you wear lots of different hats, Jess. And so today we're going to be learning about one particular hat, which is going to be around fascia freedom and your body work with that. So I'd love for you to, in your own words, introduce what's the work that you do around the fascia.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Charlie. So I practice a bodywork technique that basically has a very can have a very deep effect on the body, and it works with the body in many different ways. So I've been using this technique to help a lot of people with their pain issues over the years. And also the bodywork technique can also create or help the person facilitate emotional release. So it's this very, very interesting technique that has a lot of clinical backing, whilst at the same time can help people move through stored and trapped emotion that gets buried in the tissues due to trauma. So yeah, I love working with people in this way. It's like endlessly fascinating. Can get some fantastic results. Very much kind of approached it from the very kind of like scientific way when I first started learning it, and now it's moved a lot more into the emotional spectrum. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm like really happy to be sharing about it because the fascia is deep. I mean, and so are our bodies. You know, this it's just this stuff is endless. So yeah, just really happy to share a little bit about it because it's like I was saying to you earlier, I've been practicing this for years, but I've not actually spoken about it a great deal. So which is really funny because
Mm.
yeah, sort of yeah, for various different reasons. So yeah, really looking forward to opening it up.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to be opening this up as well because in the short time that I've been receiving treatment from you, Jess, I've had a huge shifts in my own body. So I really want to kind of like open up the conversation around this and get people to learn about what it is and just yeah, lots of education. And on that note, actually, we're holding a webinar, aren't we? It's that's actually going to be on this topic. It's going to be talking about the fascia and fascia freedom, and also the connection with the emotions and like the relationship basically between posture and emotions. Is there anything that you want to share on this, Jess?
Yeah, maybe we could talk a little bit more about the webinar towards the end, but it's called Body Talks, and yeah, this is going to be like a really really nice kind of preamble for that. But yeah, if you're asking a question specifically around how the emotions are creating postural states, I can delve into that a little bit. And because it's so fascinating. I mean, like through the knocks and tumbles of life, the body changes and the tissues change, and we get different postural states and different postural distortions based off of many different things. Many different things can cause change in posture. So we could be looking at injuries, we could be looking at operations, we could be looking at past traumas, we could be looking at something as straightforward as sitting at the desk. So like there's many different things that can cause the posture to change. And what can happen is when we practice doing different things, whether it's sitting in a chair or practice feeling a certain emotional state, or or practice even certain movement patterns, which the athletes athletes can develop sport specific imbalances. What happens is the fascia can morph and change into different positions, and it kind of gets stiff in different positions. So specifically with the emotions, like what we find is that we practice different emotional states, be it shame, be it guilt, be it anger, um,
Mm.
or maybe we're lacking confidence for whatever reason. So there, or maybe we're, let's say, even avoiding responsibility. So there's many different potential emotional states that can then create a correlating postural response. So, for example, I think everyone can relate to the kind of closing of the shoulders and the moving forward of the head. So this can mean many different things, but based on the person, because it's all very individual. But generally speaking, this is a closed position, potentially lacking in confidence. The expression is also closed down, and generally speaking, this person, due to this kind of closed posture, is going to maybe struggle to feel good in this posture because there's a very strong psychosomatic, or in other words, mind body connection between how we are moving in a posture and how we feel. So you can really easily feel this with this difference if you say, I love doing this with people. If you put your hands in the air and try and feel bad in this position,
Mm.
it's okay. So okay, so your hands are in the air now. Like try and feel bad in this position. Like try and think of bad things, jealousy, hate, rage, anger, bad things. Right. Okay. It's quite hard to feel
Yeah.
that in that position, right? So now if you close your body, now feel anger, jealousy, envy, rage, bad things, oh, stickiness, anxiety, like, so like, yeah, yeah. So you're shaking yourself off now. So like, how did that feel in comparison to raising your hands in the air?
Yeah, I really didn't feel good at all. And I actually think you should definitely do this the other way around so that you you stay with the good. Because it's like it affects you much more than you think it would,
Mm.
right? Um, so I want to rewind a little bit, Jess, and kind of can you tell us what the fascia is and how it affects the posture?
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for the question. So yeah. So the fascia, we can kind of think of like an external structure of the body. So we think of the fixed internal structure as being the skeleton, that all of the muscles, ligaments attached to, which create movement in the body. The fascia is the external structure that houses all of the muscles. So internal structure skeleton, external structure fascia, but it's way more than that. It's like an interconnected web, a communication highway through the body. So what the fascia also does is interweaves with every single system in the body, every single muscle, down to the microscopic level. The fascia is weaving into. So it's kind of like a spider's web. It actually in a dissection looks a little bit like a spider's web. So when you pull it apart, it's like this very stringy. If anyone, if the listeners like eat meat, if you kind of pull a lamb chop apart, and there's like this like membrane in between where you pull it apart, or if you pull the skin off of a chicken, you can also see this membrane. This is the fascia. So, or if you're looking at an anatomy chart, everything in white is essentially fascia.
Mhm.
So it's this interconnected web that weaves all through the body and influences the entire body. So we're talking muscles and we're talking organs, we're talking, it attaches to skeleton as well, and it basically helps to maintain structure and create movement in the body. It creates movement through different tracks or trains, what we would call trains through the body. So these are um, interlinked trains of function that will go all the way down the front of the body, all the way down the back of the body, down the sides, and through the middle of the body. And all of these trains or tracks perform different functions. So the track or train on the front of the body will flex the body forward. And we can kind of think of, like, when we look at the muscles, we kind of think of muscles as being kind of isolated, but in truth they're not. It's the fascia that weaves and interlinks all of the muscles, and helps the muscles function with each other. So the track down the front bends us forward, track down the back opens the body, and the sides pulls us into like this half moon position, and so on. But also the fascia, as well as thinking in functional tracks, we also need to think of it as being a completely integrated system. So it's a huge dynamic bag that houses all of the muscles, that interweaves through the whole body, that governs so many different things within the body. And one more thing to share on it is that it's one of the key communication highways of information through the body, because the body is highly in tune to all information that it's absorbing from its environment. externally, but also the internal information. And like the fascia, we can think of as an interface within the body and communication highway. And even we have nervous system interweaving into fascia. We have the circulatory system interweaving into the fascia. We have the lymphatic system weaving through the fascia, as well
Mm.
as numerous other systems. So it's literally the web that holds the whole thing together. And even to the point of which, if you have a lot of restriction in the fascia, for instance, and you open that restriction, because all of these other systems weave in, you're going to benefit all of those systems. So, for example, you can make a massive impact in someone's blood pressure. If someone's got high blood pressure, you can lower their blood pressure through opening the fascia, because now there's less restriction in the circulatory system's ability to pump blood through the tissues. So yeah, I mean, I go full geek mode. I love this stuff. It's so interesting. So that's just kind of scratching the surface, but hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely feel like you could, there's so much to share around this, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about your own journey with this, and particularly how it started around work with the fascia. How did you get your personal journey? How did that lead into fascia work?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I won't go into the full story because it's quite long. I kind of I guess I'll start with when I started my personal training career, actually, because this was like my introduction to working with the body through exercise. And I very quickly got into the CHEK system, which is corrective holistic exercise kinesiology, and the institute created by Paul Chek, which some people may have heard of. I can highly recommend CHEK Institute, by the way. It's phenomenal. So getting involved with the CHEK system, this kind of started my journey with not only rehabilitating the clients I was working with from all manner of different pain issues, but also rehabilitating myself, because my own posture was a mess.
Mm.
Jesus Christ, I was like, I haven't actually shown you any pictures, but if I was to show you some pictures, you'd be like, wow. And looking back, I can see how the various different many postural distortions I had were definitely emotionally based due to various different past traumas that I'd experienced. So if I look at my posture now, I'm like, wow, good job. Like, I'm really, really proud of where I've got myself now compared to where I was. And so I had like lots of things I needed to sort out. Now the CHEK system kind of gave me the first piece of that puzzle. So basically, got really practiced in how to specifically stretch and change the length tension of the body to bring the muscles into a state of normalcy, and with that creating balance in the body. So when we can tension the body correctly, it sets us up for having a nice time, pain-free, and also being able to function much better. So we can kind of think of the body a little bit like a bicycle wheel. So if the spokes of that bicycle wheel, they are kind of like the muscles and the fascia. So it maintains the structure of that bicycle wheel, and then we can kind of think of the rim of the bicycle wheel like the spine, and the center like the nut in the middle as the core musculature. Now, if those spokes of the bicycle wheel, i.e., the muscles and fascia, are some are tight and some are loose, it's going to pull the bike rim out of alignment, and you're going to get a bumpy ride going down the road. So this is what having an out of balance body is like.
Mm.
So I started learning how to balance my body through like stretching and exercise techniques, and which was massively helpful. It got me really far down that road, but didn't get me all the way to where I was today by any means, because I had to look deeper in the system. And eventually, my gym business unfortunately had to close, and it was a bumpy closure, let's say, not a smooth closure, which kind of plunged me into really well, it was a crisis state for around 6 months. I'd lost my business. I was in like a lot of deep financial difficulty at the time, um, which I'm happy to say isn't the case anymore. Um, and it was during that time I really committed to myself, committed to my journey, and commit to developing myself to a deeper level, because I recognized that, I lost my business because of certain reasons, and ultimately when something like that happens, the buck stops at you. So I committed to change, and it was really funny because not long after that happened, an opportunity opened up to work in a physiotherapy clinic, which was perfect for, at the time, I was kind of putting my life back together after losing my business. And yeah, basically started working at a physiotherapy clinic and got trained in the fascia bodywork technique that I work with now. And it was a wild journey, like Jesus, going through that treatment of myself, first time. I mean, it changed so many things so rapidly in my body, because up until that point, I've been working mostly with the physical aspects of the body, stretch this, strengthen that, great. But what was happening with me, it was deeper than what was just physical, because the reason why I was in certain postural temperaments or postural states was because of emotional temperaments and emotional traumas. So the start getting into the body work, which then started changing the body in a much more my body in a much more deeper and dynamic way. And some of the shifts I was getting in a very short space of time were like, wow. And it's interesting because when you can feel and see a very powerful change in like just a few sessions, or sometimes one session, as I know you've witnessed as well.
Yeah.
Just, damn, this stuff is powerful. So um,
Yeah.
so yeah, this and then got trained up in that, and then it was a fantastic environment working in this clinic, because I got to be on mentorship with the technique, and get really proficient in the technique, but also see lots of weird and wonderful pain cases come through the clinic, which was just like an amazing experience, which I'm really grateful for. And Yeah, it was. I was treating. I was treating builders with shoulder problems. I was treating kids with neurological disorders. I was I was treating athletes. I was treating people like 80-year-olds. I was treating people from all across the spectrum. So it's like a fantastic learning environment, and yeah, I mean, just the treatment just grew from there. I really loved the technique. I really took to the technique. Like as soon as I learned the technique, I was practicing like a lot. I think at one point I had like I treated 10 people in one day, which I wouldn't advise to anyone doing that. I was like, well, like 10 hours of manual therapy treatment on people. Jesus, it was, yeah. I wouldn't do that again because it's a lot of load. But yeah, I was on average I was treating probably 3 to 5 people a day, and just getting my hands on as many bodies as I could. And yeah, within a short space of time, I was getting some fantastic results with people. Like uh, saving people from having operations within just 3 sessions. Like, there's one guy didn't need to have an elbow operation within 3 sessions. I was working with a kid with cerebral palsy, building structure into his body and to help him walk. And just like, man, like as I say that, I just feel so good, just because that is just like this technique allowed me to touch certain people of certain demographics with certain specific problems that I just wasn't able to access before. So it enabled me to open up my practice to a lot of people who really, really needed some deep attention, but the exercise route that I was working with people, a lot of these new people wouldn't be able to actually do any of the exercise. So it opened up this whole other plethora of people that I could work with. And yeah, so happy to say, I mean, it's just been an amazing journey. I mean, I've worked with so many people and helped so many people, and I'm just kind of filled with gratitude and filled with happiness just kind of talking about it, because it's just been this beautiful journey. I'm just like so grateful to be on that journey. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing so vulnerably as well. It's amazing to hear how bumpy and up and down this journey has been, but to see you speak with so much passion. And I know that, having received treatment from you and the shifts that have happened in my own body in very short spaces of time have been really incredible. So I definitely share this passion for this work, and it's lovely to hear you talk about it. Yeah, thank you. So I kind of want to ask you, I've heard you speak a couple of times about pain. I've heard that word sort of leave your mouth, and I'm curious what your relationship is with pain. What does pain mean to you?
Pain, pain. This is a whole podcast in of itself. Like definitely several podcasts. Yeah. So pain is so many different things, so many different people, and our perception of the pain that we're in. And when I say pain, I'm not just talking about physical pain, although I definitely am talking about physical pain. I'm also talking about the other pains that we can experience, like physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, the pain of being having like a mental health crisis, the pain of being alone, the pain that can be generated within relationship. Um, there's so many different ways to look at pain, but to kind of like wrap it into um, what is pain and how can we look at it, we can look at pain as a teacher,
Mm.
and we can look at, in some cases, the pain as a friend, which might sound weird. I'll
Mm.
open up on that in a little while. But how I most prefer to look at pain is that it's a gateway. Pain is a gateway, and it's a gateway towards transformation of self. It's a gateway towards learning about ourselves. It's a gateway towards raising our consciousness. Um, the pain is usually occurring. Well, why does pain occur? And usually it's because of quite simply there's a lack of consciousness in a specific area, and what's happening is pain is being created because something needs to be brought into the light, something needs to be brought into our conscious awareness. So, give a few examples of that. I mean, okay, easy example: knee pain. I've got some knee
Mm. Yeah.
pain. Okay, now maybe that knee is in pain because my hips are out of alignment, and then it's like asking the question, why are the hips out of alignment? Okay, this may be because I'm living a sedentary lifestyle, and I'm not moving my body enough. I'm not getting the right kind of exercise. I'm not looking after what the body needs because maybe I'm not able to listen to the body. So, um, okay, but we're going back and back and back here. So, okay, knee pain is due to the hips. Hips is due to me not moving. Why am I not moving? It's because I'm not able to listen to my body.
Mm.
Why can I not listen to my body? Well, because there may be some sort of disconnection there.
Mm.
I know this is also your ballpark as well with somatic coaching. So where do we need to raise our consciousness here? Okay, it's potentially multiple levels. So, the body is giving us pain as a gateway to ask us to open up the listening to it and give it what it needs. It's also asking us to maybe look at establishing routines so that we can make sure that we can give the body what it needs. So, in my system adopted from Paul Chek, we would call this doctor movement. It's four doctors: Dr. Quiet, which is all about rest and recovery; Dr. Diet, which is about our nutrition; Dr. Happiness, which is about living life to purpose and doing the things that make us feel happy; and Dr. Movement, giving ourselves the movement that we need to maintain a good level of health. Uh, Another example, I'm getting digestive issues. Okay, this is causing me pain. I'm bloated, I'm gassy, or I'm constipated, or any realm of potential pain that can come from the digestive system. Where is this asking me to raise my consciousness? Okay, it might be around my nutritional choices. Okay, the gut is trying to give me a message that maybe I'm sensitive to something. Okay, I'm sensitive to gluten. Right. Okay, so I know that I need to maybe reduce or cut out gluten from my diet, and that's what will reduce this pain. But I can't do that because I'm attached in some way emotionally to the gluten. So then I need to maybe look at my attachments, and maybe look at how my emotions are influencing my nutritional choices, which are causing me pain.
Mm.
So it's kind of like unwinding this like breadcrumb trail. Like, just give one more different example. Like there's like a pain coming up in my relationship. I work a lot with my clients, men and women, who we're like looking at physical pain, but often some challenge within their relationship maybe coming up. So maybe then under investigation we can see that, okay, somewhere within the dynamics of the relationship something's out of balance. So the pain that's being caused through that relationship, there's an opportunity to raise consciousness within that area, because that imbalance is causing the pain within the relationship. So yeah, so pain is an opportunity and a gateway, and ultimately a gateway for growth. And just to kind of expand on that, this is actually one of the first things I talk about with my clients is the framing of pain and our relationship with pain, because we're living in this paradigm whereby pain is the enemy, and me being in pain is like the worst thing ever, and I need to do everything I can to nullify and get rid of that pain. And this attitude um, often then leads to painkillers or quick
Mhm.
fix mentality,
Mm.
because we need to get rid of the pain at all costs, rather than seeing the pain as a potential gateway and an opportunity to learn, because there's something causing that pain. We numb it, we nullify it, or we disconnect from it, or we ignore it. So and then what happens, and sometimes that's extremely dangerous to do, because if I've got really sharp back pain, that's going to limit my movement, and maybe that's a good thing, because there might be something happening at the level of the disc which may be really serious, and if I keep moving in the way that I do, I might actually damage it more. So actually, this is what I mean with the pain being a friend. The pain in this instance is trying to get me to stop moving, is to put the brakes on so I don't do more damage. So sometimes actually taking painkillers is dangerous, because we're going to turn off the signals of that pain is trying to deliver to us. We're going to keep doing the things that we're doing that put us in pain. And guess what? It's going to give more pain,
Mm.
until we learn to listen to the body and change the behaviors, or bring consciousness to that thing that is causing the pain in the first place. So yeah, there's lots there. There's lots there. And yeah, one more thing on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, it's gone. But yeah, the like pain is a gateway, and pain is an opportunity for growth if we can perceive it in this way.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and framing it like that is an automatic empowerment, because when we're in pain, like most people are going to be disempowered by that pain, and become a victim to that pain.
Mhm.
When if we're a victim to our pain, we are automatically not in an empowered state. But the victim, it enacts a very important function, because the victim archetype, the victim mentality, is enacted in order to gain support. But to the great degree at which we are the victim of our pain, is going to hold back our healing journey. Um, so yeah, if we see pain as this like thing that must be got rid of at all costs, rather than listening to the pain, and working with the pain, and seeing the pain as a means of receiving kind of, it's kind of like aggressive constructive criticism on what we're doing. But
Mhm.
if we can see it as this friend and this gateway to growth, then we can completely transform our relationship with it. And I see the clients who can really onboard that concept move so much faster through the pain and through their program, and ultimately get better results, hands down. That's why it's the first thing we talk about pretty much, the pain teacher.
Mm.
Why is the pain here? What is it here to show me, teach me, or help me move through, or overcome, or reflect to me about my life? It's also a powerful reflective tool.
Yeah, interesting. I've not heard that before. This kind of like changing the relationship with pain and seeing pain as a friend. And kind of that being a almost like a way of helping people to be more proactive with their pain rather than, as you said, kind of taking on this victim mentality. It's like, okay, how can I be proactive and see how this is helping me, see how this is showing me the places that I need to grow more. And I heard you speak about disconnection, and obviously you know that I'm really interested in disconnection with what I do. And I'm curious to hear your perspective on disconnection, and also so disconnection with the body. Perhaps you can kind of expand a bit on like why you think people are disconnected to their bodies, and then also how the fascia and working with the fascia can help with that.
Yeah, sure, sure. So, yeah, I can talk about it from my perspective, but yeah, I know we recorded a podcast interviewing you the other day, and you also gave a really beautiful riff on this. So, can highly recommend kind of exploring from both angles because you very much spoke about it from like an emotional perspective. I might kind of like go more to like the biomechanics of things.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's so many reasons why we can become disconnected and disassociated from the body. I mean, lack of consciousness around looking after our bodies. So again, like movement, diet, um, rest. Our stressful modern lives are a recipe for disconnection to the body. The our working culture, the way we gun ourselves, um, we are so disconnected from our need to rest often because we're just work, do. Um, which yeah, we covered in the other podcast. So I want to kind of go from a different angle and kind of talk about yeah, the sedentary lifestyles that we live. Because I mean, like movement and general exercise, it's about so much more than just getting a sweat on and pumping the blood. This maintains the connection and the feeling with the body,
Mhm.
and to the degree that someone is disconnected from their body is the degree at which like problems tend to arise. And interestingly, I've observed there's also an interesting connection with disconnection from nature as well. So,
Mhm.
as a society, we're getting much more disconnected from nature, much more disconnected from ourselves. There's a kind of glorification of the mind and a tendency to be much more in the mind than in the body. We don't think about the body. We kind of like the because of this like kind of glorification of the mind, the body is kind of like a secondary, which we spoke about before. Um, but yeah, so many things can cut us off from it. I mean, like, listen, if you sit in a chair 10 hours a day and don't do anything outside of that, you're gonna get disconnected from the body, and the pain is this necessary corrective factor to get you reconnected because if you're disconnected from the body, you're not going to feel that you're in like a very difficult position that's putting strain on your back. You're not connected to the body, you're not going to connect the relationship with what you're eating and
Mm.
how your digestive organs are feeling. And just on that point, the digestive organs are on the same neurological loop as the back
Mm.
muscles.
Mm.
So the nerves, they come out of the spine, they feed organs and they feed muscles. Now, if you've got an inflamed small intestines because of nutritional choices or some sort of bacterial infection, that those inflamed organs are going to also shut off the back muscles in the same kind of area. So now, because of the inflamed organs, your spine doesn't have the support. Boom, back pain. So there's often a direct relationship between what we're eating and the state of our guts and the pain that we're experiencing. Um, so sedentary, also like trauma, massive, massive. Like due to various different traumas that someone may have experienced, there can be a lack of safety perceived in the body. So, and because of so much pain that someone may have gone through, either physical, mental, emotional, in the past, the person may have learned that it's not safe to be in my body. So they then disconnect from the body and disassociate from the body. I remember I had a client who, yeah, this person had really strong disassociation, really strong disconnection, riddled with pain, all over in many different joints. But like what was most striking for me was her face was like really pasty, huge bags, bags under the eyes, waxy kind of feeling to the skin, and she, yeah, this person kind of looked, yeah, I mean, in a really difficult space. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, I mean, so we started working with their technique to start to promote some sort of reconnection. And yeah, it was the first time that she could feel like outside of her pain was through working with the technique, because the technique was working in this instance to help her reconnect with her body. So now
When you say the technique, Jess, you mean with myofascial release?
with myofascial release, yeah. So to move on to that, yeah, like so I will often use the technique very intentionally to help the person to reconnect back to their body. So there's a very strong emphasis on encouraging the person to feel what's happening through the technique, to get them to feel what's happening within their body, to get them to feel their breath, to get them to feel for any emotion that may be rising to the surface, because we've not spoken a great deal on this, but stored and trapped emotion lies in the fascia, and we can actually release
Mm.
this through the technique. So encouraging the person to feel, it's feeling all the way through, and in this way, and I will also give them practices to help to create that connection with the body. And we wake up something called the proprioception within the body. So the proprioception and interoception is the body's ability to feel itself. So with the gentleman I mentioned earlier who didn't need to have an operation after like a few sessions, he his back was essentially, his chest was collapsed forward, his head was way forward, and his right shoulder was about 2.5 inches out of place, and unable to feel any of this. After the first session, we had a big result, got his shoulders back, got his head back. After the second session, something interesting happened. The second session was on his back, and again, we got him from a closed position to a much more open position. And he said to me, "Whoa, I can feel my back's really tight. I thought this was supposed to release my back." And he'd literally gone from like wow closed position to wow open. And we'd moved his shoulder blade back by 2 inches. And then the next session, the pain went because the problem in the elbow was actually a problem with the shoulder being out of position. And I said to him, like, wow, well, look at these pictures. You actually have moved back a lot, and the back has released a ton of tension, but you're feeling it now, because before, because of the disconnection, inability to feel the muscles, and oh, God bless me, the tension in his spine that was there. Um, yeah, he wasn't able to relate with or interface with that. But through the technique, we'd woken up his ability to feel um, his back muscles, and he was experiencing it as tight,
Mm.
but he was feeling the tightness that was already there.
Right.
So that's an example of getting a person to to feel more through their body, but also, yeah, from the emotional perspective, a lot of people are also really disconnected from feeling their emotions. And there's many reasons for this. Societal, parental, individual. Like, we won't go too much into that, but yeah, suffice to say that we are disconnected from our emotions. So can also use the technique to encourage the person to feel into their emotions. So it's not uncommon for a client or patient to be crying on the table, or maybe after the session. Um, yeah, I think the first person who had an emotional release with, it wasn't actually in the session. She had great time in the session, really relaxed, felt good. Her pain was changing through the session, and she came back for the session 2, and she went, "Oh my God, I what happened after the first session? I was crying for 3 days, and I was like, oh, that's great, well, fantastic. Oh, this is really good that that you were crying, because she saw the crying as a negative thing because of
Yeah.
told around the expression of emotions and crying, and there's a lot of unhelpful stories and beliefs around crying and being with emotion, but yeah, like I was like, oh no, this is actually a really good thing, because the technique has allowed the emotions that were stored in the fascia to be liberated, and you're purging the emotions through crying. And
Mhm.
this is really great. Like, so I really encourage you to feel into it, allow yourself to cry, maybe even create some space for that.
Mm.
And the more you can feel into that and cry, the more this is going to help your body, because it's just the emotions moving through and out of the system. And yeah, she then got really into it, and yeah, she things moved for her pretty quick. So yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, not everyone cries through the process, but yeah, it's there can be many other subtle shifts that happen, because we're through the body, we're also having a very profound effect on the subconscious mind.
Mhm.
So I've witnessed it many times just working with this therapy. People will be change. We'll get 4 sessions in, body will be changing, and the person's like, you know what? I've been thinking, like, I'm thinking I need to give up smoking, or I'm started sleeping more, or I've started drinking kombucha, or like, and is that to do with the therapy? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I do see things change for the person outside of the physical body, and in their behaviors and the way they're looking at life. And I've seen it many times. So maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe there could be something to do with what's happening with the therapy.
Yeah, I can definitely chime in on that a little bit because it wasn't through my first experience of kind of like being more connected to my body. It wasn't through myofascial release, it was more through yoga. I got more I was like, I think for many, many years, most of my life, like really disconnected from my body. And with yoga, as I kind of connected more, I started like things started shifting like really, really quickly. And then also through the therapy that I received from you, Jess. I mean, um the it was very quick shifts that would happen, and I think that that's what I found kind of most surprising was like how quickly things could pass through. Like for example, the first time that I received treatment, I like had this emotional release, and it was like super fast, like it literally was over in 30 seconds. It was kind of this like big, like almost like big wave of something coming up, getting released. I had like a very, one of those cries where you just like and then, and then just let it go, and I felt great afterwards. And with crying kind of specifically, I mean, I'm a huge fan of crying because there's so much you can release through crying in ways that like I think you can release like lots of oxytocin and all of these different hormones that are creating the emotions, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm always just amazed by no one person is the same, and no one release is the same, and no one result is the same. So some people like you experienced, it will come and it will go. I had an emotion release the other day where it was like really strong, and the person was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere, and it also went back to nowhere, and now I feel fine, like that. Like it was
Yeah.
like a light switch. It was really interesting, just so that thing needed to move. um, for other people, yeah, it can be a lot more sustained. And with the person I just mentioned, they didn't know what it was that was being released, but something was being released.
Yeah.
Other people, it may be more sustained and be a lot more raw, and they may also have an awareness of what is being released. Because sometimes, a whole variety of things can come up, stored emotion, heat, memories, thoughts.
Mm.
So sometimes, yeah, like we'll tap into something in the body, and then the person will get like a memory of something from when they were 7, and then they'll know that, okay, yeah, something here is moving through and being released in this specific area. But we other people, it's like shaking. Other people will feel
Mm.
energy zip around their body. Other people will feel nothing, but you might see a big change.
Mm.
But yeah, it's very interesting to witness. And you know, again, like no one person is the same. So you know, people purge in different ways. So you know, and it depends on the nature of what's stored in the tissues as well. So sometimes it's emotions, sometimes it's physical toxins
Yeah.
that are stored in the fascia. So you know, it's really important to drink water around this therapy. I had one gentleman. I know I've told you this story before, but yeah, this one gentleman, he'd been basically drinking 5 cups of tea for years and years and years, very, very dehydrated. I knew that you know, he was very dehydrated, body not in a great condition at all. I mean, this technique is great for bodies that are not in the best condition. Tends to be tends to be very effective. Um, but yeah, I knew that he'd not drunk for a long time properly, so I told him 6 or 7 times, you must drink 3 liters of water around this therapy for the next 2 to 3 days. You must, as a prerogative, got him to agree to do that because I knew that. Yeah, and he then didn't do it, and then he was in A&E that night with kidney problems because we'd liberated so much toxicity into his system because he was so toxic. You know, bad lifestyle. You know, not the greatest nutrition. Lots of stress. Um, so we liberated so much toxicity into his body, physical toxicity, chemical toxicity of crap that was stored in the fascia into his body, and then he didn't drink enough to then flush that toxicity through. So then his poor kidneys and probably his liver as well
Mm.
were massively taxed by what had been released. So you know, it's not all emotional. Some of it is also chemical. And you know, a person can purge in many ways. You know, you've got crying, you've got number one, you've got number two. Sweating sometimes happens in the session. If you do certain spinal releases, suddenly this can suddenly trigger a very strong sweat response.
Mm.
So yeah, it's weird, wonderful, and yeah, it's endlessly interesting because you know, each person is again so different.
Yeah, fun stuff, really. Like all of it is so interesting to hear about. And actually, I think it's really crazy that we don't learn about this at school. I mean, this should be part of anatomy class. Like I remember learning about bones and tissues and stuff. I never learned anything about the fascia, but it seems to be so, I mean, so important and so yeah, I don't know, just something that we should really kind of be knowing about. And I'm curious to hear, I mean, you're often in touch with lots of people that are like, you know, unhealthy or have, you know, different health issues. Um, and I think I'm just curious to hear what your theory is around that, around, you know, why people are like, I feel like a lot of people are really unhealthy these days, and a lot of people are having kind of pain issues. I just want to hear if you've got anything to say about that.
That's a massive question, and yeah, I've got lots to say on that.
Also, just want to say, just get as you're saying, talking about dehydration, I'm like getting my water in and just like sipping away.
It's funny whenever I talk about hydration, everyone starts to like, oh yeah, drink some water. Yeah, I mean, again, that's a podcast in of itself. But I really like how you kind of started that question by talking about education,
Mm,
because rather than delving too far into the problems, I'd prefer to move with some of the potential solutions.
mhm,
Um, and you know, the solution is always contained within the problem. So I think the number one issue and reason why people are in pain and why it's on a rise is a lack of education. Well, there's a couple of things. It's more than a couple of things, but yeah, education is massive. So yes, you rightly say, we don't get the education that, in my opinion, we need to maintain a good level of health. It's as simple as that. And there's also a reason why fascia isn't widely known is because there's an over focus on the muscles and also isolated thinking. So isolation with muscles. This muscle does this. This muscle does this. But there's not a lot of thinking of how these muscles work together.
mhm,
And fascia is what interlinks them together. But also, um, it's only in like the last few years the fascia has been really deeply studied. This is what
Mm.
makes it quite an exciting field to work in, because it's I say new, but really, body workers have been knowing about the fascia for thousands of years, but kind of the
Right.
mainstream science is kind of catching up. And within the wellness world, over the last few years, there has been a big trend towards talking about the fascia more and more. So it's becoming more widely known. Yeah, with health, I mean, I strongly believe that if the health was taught in the school curriculums, within just a few short years, burden on the NHS would massively go down, because there wouldn't be as many
Mm.
sick people. Um, why it's not in the school system, I have theories on, but like that, I really feel that it's if it's taught to kids from the age of 6 or 7, as soon as they get into school, here's how to look after yourself. Here's why rest is important. Here is good nutrition, what that means. Here's the importance of exercise. I know there's like PE classes and whatnot, but yeah, like I think having like a focused syllabus on it, because the other issue with the health is that we're unfortunately living in an increasingly toxic world, and as time goes on, the consciousness that we need to bring to our health needs to
Mm.
raise and raise and raise, because the things that we need to do to maintain good health are ever more increasing, because we're living in an ever increasingly toxic world. So, 100 years ago, cancer wasn't really a factor. It wasn't really about, obviously, you would have some cases of it, but like not nowhere near where it is today. I think I don't know whether this is the case exactly, but it's something like 1 in 33 people, um, 100 years ago would have cancer. Now we're looking at, it was 1 in 4, then it's 1 in 3. Now I think we're down to 1 in 2 people will get cancer. You know, that's shocking. That's 100
Yeah.
years. That's like what, like 4 generations of people, and suddenly it's gone from 1 in 33 odd to 1 in 2. This is showing we have a massive problem, and unfortunately it's coming at us from all angles. There's the lack of education, so people like are struggling just with the basics of how to look after themselves. Then there's toxicity, which is massive. There's crap in the water, there's crap in the food. I mean, the food is probably the biggest one, to be honest. Really,
Mm.
there's crap in the air. um, there's heavy metal issues that weren't around a number of years ago. So toxicity is huge. Our modern lifestyle is also huge. Spoken already about how our modern lifestyle is geared up for stress and driving the stress response in the body, which chronic stress always causes disease
Mhm.
or will cause physical pain. Depends, because stress, um, they got 100 doctors in a room and asked them all what was the biggest killer, and they all said stress, because the stress
Mm.
response in the body leads to health challenges. So, we have so many stresses in our world, left, right, and center. And when I say stress, I'm talking about, yes, the mental, emotional stresses of having a bad day at work, financial stresses, relationship stresses, existential dread stresses, which is massive right now, given the wild shit we've been through over the last few years. People are uncertain, people are scared, people are like, it's a really weird time right now, and that this creates a lot of instability, a lot of psychological subconscious stress, which is still stress, but also food, chemical stress, electromagnetic stress. This got me earlier in the year. God, I got really sick due to EMF stress. So like, man, it's massive, massive question, and because there's so many different little things, and it's kind of like the death by 1,000 cuts. We've got these hundreds of little stresses all around that, when added together, have a huge detrimental effect on the body. So this is what I mean in having to be really conscious around our health. And unfortunately, what I believe will happen is things ain't getting better. So what will happen is people are going to get sicker and sicker. More pain will be generated, but that pain we can see again as a teacher and a corrective function, because the pain is trying to guide us back to health. and like the pain of a disease such as cancer or any other realm of different health problems, or these are all trying to point us towards our health. Like diseases and health problems don't just come up by accident, and I think this is what um, you know a lot of the paradigm that we're working in kind of doesn't make that connection fully between how we're living and what ends up happening to us.
Mhm.
It's like autoimmune diseases don't crop up by accident. Things like cancer don't crop up by accident. Knee, elbow, wrist, shoulder, back pain doesn't come by accident. There's always a causation. Um, so again, we're back to the pain trying to lead us towards back towards health and wholeness.
Yeah, well, what an interesting riff you just shared with us, and yeah, just to say, like, even though it's hard to hear all of this, like, I think it's just really necessary to bring consciousness to it and to be aware of what's happening, what's on the horizon if we don't do anything about it, right? And so I'm just like want to circle it back to this like education piece that you were talking about, and like I suppose like I want to hear about more of the ways in which you think education can help to for people to transform and to I guess transform this pain into empowerment, which is like your whole business is about. And also like want to drop in there. I know that you're educating people around the fascia and the myofascial release techniques. I also want to hear about that.
Yeah, sure. It feels like a two-part question. So
Yeah.
to dive into the education piece first. I mean, yeah, I mean it's key. I believe that we need education at all levels and all ages. If we can get into the schools and start educating kids from a really young age, that would be like a huge, massive shout. Getting with the teenagers, but you know we've got such a lack of education. It's kind of like I want to use a different metaphor. Like when I got into business, uh, I always thought the recurring thought of like when I was doing taxes and working out my finances and doing all of these different things. I always thought, why didn't they teach us this in school?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know this stuff. I was like I was in like mid 20s and mid to early to mid 20s. I was like, shit, I don't know this stuff, and this stuff is like essential to living in the world. But I don't know about my tax returns. I don't know about this. I don't know because we were never taught it. But we were taught quadratic equations. Maths is like, damn, I never used it. I mean, maybe some people
I
will
know.
use a quadratic equation somewhere, but probably 99.99% of people ain't going to use a quadratic equation.
Mm,
Massive percentage of people need to know how to do their tax return and
mhm,
like have like basic faculties of how to move through life like installed in them. So health is so I use that analogy because I know that probably a lot of people can relate to that. Health is the same, so if not more important, because yeah, I mean, if your body isn't right, then you're not going to be around long enough to enjoy all that money that you're going to save through doing your taxes correctly. So so yeah, education at all levels, and I very much my role is of an educator. Like this is what I'm doing with my clients. It's what I'm doing with the various different with the coaches that I've been running courses for. So I mean, education, because like if knowledge is power, then self knowledge is self empowerment.
mm,
Yeah, and we're going to struggle to make change if we're not aware of things. So the pain is like the gateway to say, right, I need to upskill, I need to learn about something in this area. And you'll find pretty much every health and wellness person, every person that's in the same field as I am, holistic health, pain management, everyone's got their story. Every single person, and it's usually a story of pain because they've gone through so much sucky stuff with their gut issues or their dodgy knee or their dot dot dot, that they've gone, right, I'm done with this, I'm going to learn, I'm going to educate myself, and I'm going to get myself out of this mess. And you know, through going on that journey, God, they learned so much. And I can very much testify for that. I've had a hip issue, which like it's just taught me just reams and reams and reams of so many things over the years as I've moved towards rehabilitating it. But yeah. So and what usually happens is if someone's had such a transformative change in their own health, they naturally want to help others. Naturally want to help others. So
Mhm.
you know that self education, which is self empowerment, it's not just about you. I mean, it is about you because you know we want to live happy, full, healthy lives that we can enjoy without having to worry about pain. So you know, for yourself, yeah, it's so important. But it's not just about you. It's about if you've got kids or plan to have kids, because then you pass that information on to your kids so that they can live happy, healthy lives. It's your other family members. It's your friends. It's your community. You know, we want to be happy, healthy, and whole and live life to the fullest and do what we love.
Mm.
Health is a passport to that. If we don't
Mhm.
have our health, you know, we can't live full lives and we can't ultimately create our dreams and do what we love to do. It
Mhm.
can be very difficult, very
Mhm.
difficult. So that self education, which is self empowerment, helps you and everyone around you. So you know that's why it's so important. This is why I'm an educator in this because I'm passionate about it. And you know I've got my story. I've managed to help myself, and now I'm in a position where actually I'm very grateful to be able to help others with that, which is what it's all about. Um, so yeah, I mean, like, and to give one fantastic, phenomenal resource, if you get into this point in the podcast, you're like, damn, I need to educate myself, and you know, I've got some problems, and I want to move towards fixing them. Fixing, you know, inverted commas. But yeah, I can recommend Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. This book, in fact, I've actually got a copy always to hand, never more than a meter away. So just in case I need it. So this book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Paul Chek. It's like people call it the Health Bible because it's no nonsense, common sense um, stuff that people just aren't privy to, aren't taught. And I've had many clients saying, "Why don't they teach this in schools?" That again
Mhm.
and again and again. So if you want a fantastic resource to start working on your health, I can really recommend that book.
Yeah, I love that recommendation. And I know that you recommended me that book a few times. That's actually a copy you've lent you've actually lent me a copy as well. So yeah, I love that. And I kind of I feel like I want to share as well because you know, in my own journey with health and educating myself around health, like I suppose like growing up, I didn't really know much about health. I didn't come from a family that like necessarily was like super into learning about health. I think myself, I was quite closed off to it. And and particularly like around kind of anatomy. And you know, growing up had like quite bad posture. You know, we can talk about it another time, but you know, due to different emotional states. And and I wish that I'd been able to receive that education earlier because you know what ended up happening was that like I blamed myself for it. I thought it was my fault that I was in this particular position in this posture. And you know, bless her, my mum was like trying to help me move into a better state. And so she'd sort of say to me, like, stand up straight, Charlie. And I found that so frustrating because I was like, but like that's not, I can't do that. Like that's not how it works. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because what the treatment and the education that I've received through you, Jess, has really helped to empower me, you know, to realize like, oh, like there are parts of the journey that I can do on my own and I can learn and I can educate myself. There are parts also where like it's okay to ask for help. And sometimes there are things that like we need to ask for help around. Um and yeah, I really want to hear about the myofascial course and what you can tell us about that. I also curious to know if you might yeah just tell us about what that involves and how that's been going.
Mm. Yeah, cool. Thanks for the question. And yeah, I really feel for what you're saying about kind of being told to stand up straight because yes, it's not simple as that because you know we have often a certain emotional temperament that say if we've had like a deep trauma when we're like a kid, this will then often create an emotional temperament, which will create a certain posture. and then we've become physically locked in that posture by the muscles and the fascia becoming tight and holding us in that position. So we can try and stand up straight, but the physical stiffness of the body and the tightness of the tissues are going to pull you straight back, um, to the poor posture the second you are consciously not standing up straight. So it's the same with the people who sit at the desk, because it doesn't need to be this deep emotional trauma. It can be like you've just sat at a desk for your graphic designer who's sat at a desk for many, many years. Your head's gone forward, shoulders gone forward, and now you've got an RSI issue in your, in your wrist. Just telling this person who's been sat in the chair for 10 years to sit up straight and change their posture, it's not practical, because those tissues need to be released. They need to be either worked on with a body worker, or they need to be stretched, or
Mm.
muscles need to be strengthened. So yeah, and so there's a hell of a lot of self-education that you can do, and there's also enlisting with help. And I've had many many people teach me many things, and I'm really like fortunate for that. So yeah, and now I'm in this like really just honored to be in this role, whereby I'm also passing on certain teachings to therapists at the moment. So that's the Fascia Freedom course that we're 2 out of 3 weekends into, and we're having a lot of fun. It's just I've been wanting to share this material for around 2.5 years, but it's never been quite the right time. So yeah, really just stoked to have been diving into this over the last few weeks. So I'm taking 7, I think it's 8 therapists. I've 7 therapists through a journey to basically teach them this body work technique. And yeah, it's been a really interesting journey for everyone involved so far. I mean, I think everyone on the course have been going through quite strong processes, because through the release work, it's bringing up stuff for people. It's for them to move through and alchemize, and everyone's posture is changing, and yeah, it's just such a joy to hear stories of the practitioners who are then practicing with their loved ones or friends, and things are changing for them as well through the techniques. So I think what I love most about it is, I'm just seeing, as the course is going on, the participants get more and more empowered with this technique, and
Mhm.
just enjoying receiving the technique, seeing and feeling the changes in their lives, and then practicing this technique with others. So I'd love for everyone to walk away from that course, and obviously the idea is for them to integrate the technique into what they're already doing, because everyone is already walking the wellness path. We've got breath workers in there, somatic coaches, shamanic therapists, Czech practitioner is in there. A couple of Czech practitioners actually. Got a Thai masseuse in there. So there's lots of different people from lots of different modalities, and the aim is for them to hopefully integrate the technique into what they're already doing. So I've as well as the practical techniques, we've also got some business work in there for them as well, of how to kind of integrate what they're doing with this technique into their current business. And I'm just loving what's coming up so far, because everyone's so unique and so talented in their own rights, and it's just really interesting to start to see the fusions that are coming together. Like one of the guys on the course, Conch, big up if you're listening. He's a very talented musician, and he's also working with the plants to help people move into relaxed states. And he's combining his musical talent with the technique, and the people he's working with, they're going extremely deep, and is creating some really beautiful results. So yeah, it's just I just love working with coaches and therapists, because they're just like, everyone's really like massive hearted, and just really up for just doing good for themselves, developing themselves, and helping people. These are some of my favorite people to work with. I mean, I love working with everyone, but working coaches and therapists is just very special to me, because it's a great bunch to work with, but also in this way I get to help way more people, because by getting this technique across to the practitioner, if they go and then work on 100 people, you know, that's great, because like secondarily I've helped contribute to helping, you know, many more people than I can, you know, just work on a one-to-one basis. So yeah, we're having a beautiful time. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, big ups to everyone on the course. We've got one weekend left. I mean, like, you know, it's because it's been going, you know, been how it's going. I'm already thinking that gonna run this course again in the new year, because it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just been.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that. I was going to ask if you were thinking of running it again. So it's good to hear. And yeah, I heard you sort of talk about fusions, and I know that we've kind of started working on this like fusion between um myofascial work and somatic coaching, and maybe we can use that as a little lead in to speak about the webinar that we're going to be hosting on the 3rd of September. So it's coming up closer now, and yeah, I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, Body Talks. So yeah, really excited to be hosting this webinar with you, and yeah, we're going to dive into some of the specifics of the emotional holding postures, and how how our emotions are creating postures, and how that posture is creating pain. This is what we're going to really be opening up and going into with some interactive exercises, lots of demonstration, lots of education. It's going to be really juicy. And yeah, for anyone who's interested in learning more about their emotional health, how their emotions are impacting their body and ultimately their life, and what you can do for that,
Yeah.
this is like a really, really great opportunity to dive deeper. I mean, yeah, if you've been into this podcast, then that'd be a fantastic webinar to come to for sure. And yeah, we're we're merging the body work and the somatic coaching, because they're so synergistic, so powerful. Because you know what you do, I can testify, is like extremely potent. And yeah, they're all serving to help people to reconnect their bodies, and I mean, I guess reconnect to themselves, because if we're disconnected from ourselves, how are we possibly going to live the lives that we want to?
Mhm.
How? How can you do that if you are disconnected from yourself?
Mhm.
Yeah. So this is, you know, what we're hoping to help people with ultimately, and so we've got this synergy of the myofascial body work and the somatic coaching, which is yeah, it's just a lovely transformative match for healing and growth and empowerment. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, speaking of transformative grounds, uh, I'd love to, yeah, close this wonderful podcast with speaking about transformation and what transformation means to you, Jess.
Oh, love this question. I've asked so many people this question.
Yeah, I know you've asked so many people that question and you've never had the opportunity to answer, so I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, yeah. Life is transformation. Everything we can conceive of is in a state of perpetual transformation and perpetual movement. Transformation is the conversion of energy. It's moving from one form into the next. It's the endless cycle of death, rebirth, and what we move through in all those spaces between. So, you know, when we think of the transformation, every day is a transformation, and every day is an opportunity for transformation. You know, day transforms into night, night transforms into day. The butterfly goes into the chrysalis and transforms. Oh, so the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis and transforms into a butterfly. Like,
Mm.
whoa, how's that happening? How is that happening? And it is through this beautiful alchemical process that we all have access to, um, that we're able to move into different spaces within our life. And you know, if we're taking the concept of transformation and bringing agency to that, we can create so much beauty within our lives. So much beauty. If we embrace this transformative process of death and rebirth, like really embrace it, not be scared of something dying, not be scared of something falling away, not being scared of change. If we can move into these faculties of life that are inevitable with a good mindset, if we can rather look at our pain as something to get rid of, looking at our pain as a gateway for transformation and change, we can create beauty in our lives. That's what it is. This is beautiful. This is beautiful process of transformation. Like it or not, it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
You know, as what like it says, like two things are certain in life: death and taxes. Right. So you know, and when we speak of death, we're not speaking about that big event that happens at the end of life, which can be deeply beautiful, deeply beautiful. We're talking about all of the moments of death that occur all throughout our lives. You know, the ending of things so that something could be born in its place. For something to begin, something needs to end.
Mm.
So how are we approaching our transformative journeys? How are we approaching death? How are we approaching birth? What are we clearing space for? What do we want to bring into the world? What do we want to birth into the world?
Mm.
Whatever we are creating, we are birthing.
Mm.
So yeah, transformation is so many things. It's really a process of beauty. It's this alchemical process of deep beauty that we are all in. We can choose to engage in that process and take agency and take action and you know, grab life by the horns. That's what we're freaking here for. Like, we're here to live. So we can take that transformation and we can run with it and work with it as an agent of bringing greater depth, greater beauty, greater joy, greater love into our lives. Or we can be a passive bystander and let life happen to us. Now, to the degree of which you're letting life happen to you, is the degree at which pain is going to likely occur in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess like transformation is it's an attitude and a way of living as well.
Mm.
And how are we exercising our attitude towards life? So, yeah, and how are we transforming in our journeys? What are we moving into? Who are we moving into? Who are we becoming?
Mm.
Who would I like to become?
Mm.
And these are all powerful questions we can ask ourselves to move ourselves towards that space of transforming and creating good things within our life, creating love within our lives.
Mm. Beautiful. That was a true Phoenix answer. True Phoenix answer. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. It was really fun interviewing you. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We'll put lots of things in the notes. Check out the notes and all the links to the things. And yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to share, Jess, before we close?
No, just deep thanks for stepping into this role of a podcast interview. It's been great. It's been really fun. It's been really fun. So yeah, like just deep gratitude to you, Charlie. So yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, deep gratitude to all of the listeners. Like yeah, it's just like a joy and a pleasure to be in this role, and hopefully it's helpful to people. I mean, if it just helps one person, then it's like freaking, job done. Yeah. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Charlie.
Lots of love.
Yeah. Love.